Good morning and welcome to our channel. Today, we have reached a breaking point with the administration and President Donald Trump as they have superseded congressional vote on time limits and work requirements. So I want to go over verbatim what they're offering at this point. Congress is not currently scheduled to vote on Section 8 time limits and work requirements. Instead of pursuing legal challenges, the Department of Housing and Urban Development is advancing these policies through a proposed administrative rule that completely bypasses congressional vote. In other words, guys, they're making this now a code of federal regulation matter. In other words, you're going to write it in the code of federal regulation. They had open hearing for that, and that ended in May. And so there's nothing stopping it at this point. So what will likely happen here within the next 30 days is it'll be rolled out, become a permanent part of code of federal regulation. And I'm going to go ahead and link that up for you guys. Let me do that for you real quick. Well, I tell you what, you could find the link down in the description if you wish, but you can track the current status for that under a linkage that included right here is going to be the proposal rule FR 6520-P-01. It's going to be establishing flexibility for implementation of work requirements and term limits. Once that hits, so now the public comment is over, that means that at any this will be rolled out fully, and then we're going to move forward with the process. Let me explain what's going to happen, guys. There's no way to stop this at this point. It's going to go into code of federal regulation. Public comment is over. I think only 157 people decided to comment on this. Therefore, it doesn't require Congress anymore. So now it's just a matter of when they post the notice for it. HUD proposes to allow the PHA and owners to require work eligible adults to engage in work activities up to 40 hours per week as a condition of continued receipt of HCV, which is Housing Choice Voucher or Project Based Voucher or PBRA assistance or continued occupancy in any public housing whatsoever. So it goes on. The proposed rule would allow PHAs and owners to establish term limits no less than 2 years. So the operable starting term will be 2 years. They may go a little further if they wish, and that will be determined in administrative plans from PHAs across the country. I would expect full implementation of this well before October, now that it's no longer going to be a deciding factor in Congress. So moving from there, what they're looking at is going to be under CFR 245403, who receive said assistance with PBRA and HCB and PBB. The HUD is proposing the permit of owners and adaptation of work hours 40 or more. So the primary effect here will be on working class people that receive Section 8 vouchers. Moving into the term of whether or not a person will be able to keep this over a much longer duration will be strictly at the decision of low-income housing owners as well as public housing authorities. Now, one thing I want to tell you is most of the PHAs are probably going to limit this at 2 years. So this is going to create a lot of problems in the rental market because many landlords aren't going to want to rent and then also have to eject people out of the building every 2 years. Most people that use project based use it over a longer term. This is in response in Trump's administration to people trying to use these as generational vouchers. In other words, they've used these vouchers without any essence of attempting to work. And so therefore they remain on a voucher 10, 20, or even 30 years. So that generation, that 50-year run of this has now come to its conclusion. And so it is a war on it. It's a war to try to establish that people can utilize the federal system for housing, but ultimately you have to be able to get out the system and go on to work. Now, if you are a senior or disabled, this will not be a problem for you because you will not be within that. But keep in mind, if your household has a disabled or senior in it, the rule only applies to that person in the household. Everybody else needs to be working. If you don't meet the requirements, you won't even reach the minimum 2-year limit. They will simply kick you out the voucher, and then you'll have to move out the apartment. So they're making it very clear. And so let's also be crystal clear about this video. You can find a linkage to the Federal Register. When it updates, these rules will roll out, and I'm sure it's only within about 30 days. Okay, because the president as well as administration, when they write code of federal regulation, they don't need anybody's approval. They can consider your voices, but that's it. It's done. This is cooked. Okay. Moving on from there. So the status is remaining live. So again, you're going to want to check out that link, bookmark it, and make sure you check back. Also, there are going to be some additional cuts to the programming. They would expect with this many people being ejected out the system. So a low number, a low tier number would be around 4 million, and the high tier number would be around 14 million people. That means the system's going to get washed. In other words, a lot of people that have been writing this for a long time, you're going to be given a set amount of time. If you don't meet the rules and requirements, they're going to be laying out. And again, I've included linkages that cover the entire complex rules of this. It's around 63 pages. And so if you don't meet those criterias, you won't even make it a day with the voucher. Okay. They'll simply put you out. And so that's what we're facing right now is implementation and then putting that in the hands of the PHA to determine how long people can stay on vouchers. The good news is for many of you that are seniors and disabled that struggle to get housing, this means that you will essentially this many people being ejected out the system. It means the wait times will be much shorter, and then also you'll be able to get housing in a more frequent basis. So this is a system that, in many ways, was rolled out under continuum of care programs for homeless, and they called it in those days rapid rehousing. You can think of this as a federal rapid rehousing. You get in, you get out with a time limit. If you're not going to work 40 hours a week, then there won't even be 2 years to sit on that voucher. They'll simply put you out the door the minute you fail to meet compliance. Compliance does roll under HAP contract every 30 days. Failure to report, terminate your contract, and then could put you at a jeopardy of a 5-year ban. Much again of this can be found in the descriptions there. I'm backing this with legislation, code of federal regulation. These are not tips, tricks, or articles written by CNN or Fox News. These are actual code of federal regulation. So the comment period is done, and we expect to move to there. Now, while I've got you guys here in the channel live, I'm going to go ahead and move to comments. I'm not going to get too much deeper into this because we've already said what we need to do to get to the point. So let me get on to the comments here. Top of the morning. Good morning, Harris Muskogee Lamb watching. Good morning and welcome back. Pippi Longstocking, good morning. And Gamer23, good morning. Mine Hunter, hi, Jay in chat. Pre-gout tent, good times, of course. Well, you know, with the Raider times, there are many changes. And let's bring up one other subject matter that factor in this over the next 3 years. We're going to be looking at the implementation of AI in the system. In other words, you will see the dissolution of housing authorities across America. And there's roughly around 4,300, and it goes up and down in numbers depending on what's happening with them. But they rolled it out on the landlord side, and they're going to be implementing AI, which means, for the most part, many of your cases are going to be determined and accepted through application all the way to determination and also requalification and annual reinspection all the way through AI. I would expect a rollout of that pretty soon, and I'm going to make a video that's going to try to detail some of the projected concepts of that coming up in a few more videos, okay? In addition to some of these other things, I'm going to throw in a little bit more news, and I'm going to cover this as well in another video, but they no longer are required. They've rolled back notices to evict. Pandemic area rules are gone. They can now, landlords don't have to give you any fair notice. That went out the window back in March. It's just now kind of getting out and circulating in the main news. If you don't meet the terms of your contract or otherwise violate HAP contract rules or your leasing agreement in any way, landlords can move for an immediate eviction now. So those pandemic era rules are no longer applicable. And so we will probably see a very large wave of people being ejected because you're adding 2 points of pressure in the system right now. Time limits and work requirements is going to force probably between 3 and 14 million people on the street or to find other options. And also the additional pressure is for many of the people that have remained in housing that did not catch up on rents and other factors. What will happen is that will bounce back to the PHA, which will force basically an eviction as well as termination of contractual services through the PHA. So you really need to bring your rents up to date. If you haven't read your lease lately, you need to make sure you're following the stipulations within that. And with the time limits and work requirements, as soon as they publish that, I'll make a video. That way you guys can understand in principle what all the rules and requirements are and make sure you follow them to the letter because the administration is very, very serious about this. And so as they put that capably in the public housing authority's hand and also private owners of low-income properties, they have a plethora of options in order to put you out of housing. So should you be fearful of this? Again, if you're disabled, if you're a qualified as disabled or a person 62 years or older, This doesn't matter for you. You are not in this picture. If you're not those two things, then this is the new concept. This is the new code of federal regulation, which will be published on Cornell law and will go into effect as soon as they're done making their decision after the public hearing. That public hearing ended. It just ended. And so there's nothing stopping this. Okay. The president, nor its administration or HUD have Congress or anybody standing in their way. Okay, they can write those laws into code of federal regulation without any Senate approval, and that's what's happened. I told you if you bounce an idea off of something so many times, you could find a way to circumvent it, and that's what's happened here. The president's not going to waste his time with Congress and try to challenge it that way. He'll simply turn it into code of federal regulation, and then it's a done deal. There's no way really to remove that other than legal challenges, and even that's not going to work out because you can't really challenge that. I've enjoyed talking with you guys today. I wish it, but we're done here today, and I'll see you again. Bye for now.